Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Jenny, or rather Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 190 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 46 of A Storm of Swords, that's Sam 3.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter, we're going to try not to spoil any future plot points for you, and hopefully we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what occurred, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes, they'll provide some additional information about the characters and geography of this chapter. How are you, Mackelly?
I am doing well. It's good to be back.
Well, I mean, you'd like to be welcomed back, but, you know.
It's good to be back.
Before you were permanently replaced.
Right. I had to hurry back. I just want to quickly thank Jenny for stepping in, doing such a fantastic job. And I don't think most people, probably anybody but the three of us, realize on how short of notice she stepped in. It was less than a week. She was called up, and she did a very admirable job. And
yeah, she did great. I have to say, I think I've said this a couple of times. I think I've said it to you. I'd forgotten how nerve-wracking it could be. Because for you and me, this is just like, it's just we do this all the time.
Right.
But Jenny was kind of nervous, and it rubbed off on me. I was like, oh yeah, this is quite nerve-wracking now I think about it.
I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure. I knew she was nervous going in. I was talking to her beforehand, and she seemed nervous, but I was like, it's going to be fine. You're going to do great. And she did.
Yeah,
and it really helped me out. As you mentioned, I was visiting my mom who's not doing great. And, it allowed me to not have to worry about us, suddenly just missing an episode at the spur, at the last minute. And, it was really great.
I'm not sure you were totally not worried about us. I felt like there were texts arriving just before, during, and after to make sure it had all gone swimmingly. So I think you were still worried.
I wasn't worried. I was just wanting to be there for support. I was curious. I was interested. I couldn't wait to hear. And I listened Sunday evening while I was folding laundry. I got to be like a listener. I get to tell you what I was doing while I was listening. I was folding laundry for the most part.
That's it. That's what you're supposed to do.
And I don't know if our listeners deal with this, but I was talking to you guys the whole time. I don't know if it was just because I'm used to doing this, or if this is what normally happens. But I was like, oh yeah, this. What about this? Wait, what about this?
You lunatic!
I know. That was fun.
While we were sort of warming up and practicing for it, because we had to do all kinds of we had contact all the way through the week up until we recorded. I got to meet Mr. of Oldstones, which is very very nice. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah. I did find out this weekend. I have a new overlord. King Charles the somethingth is my new.
Well, you did. You're an American citizen now, right?
Yeah, but I'm not allowed to give it up. I'm still a subject of the king.
I didn't know that.
Well, the US wants me to give it up, but the British won't let me give it up.
Oh, okay.
Because you're not a citizen, you're a subject. And so it's not optional. You're his subject, and you are for life,
You'd think that the two nations would have sorted that out by now.
They sort of have. It's kind of like a tacit, the Americans say, give up your other citizenship. You say, sure. The British say, no. And everyone goes about their business,
Okay.
But I'm not much of a royalist.
I know.
I'm not. Yeah, but I'm also kind of like passively disinterested. It's not like I'd be there, at the foot of the guillotine calling for their heads or anything. I'm just, I just think it's archaic and ridiculous,
Okay.
I discovered my brother does not have my calm demeanor about this. He was absolutely furious about the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, just the cost and the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah.
And also some of the things he was talking about, some of the ceremony. Some of the ceremony goes on behind closed doors because it's really weird.
They're
It's
like chickens, headless chickens and such.
I I think more weird than that. I mean, there's like the Archbishop of Canterbury rubs oil into his chest or something, into the king's chest.
Oh,
It's
I did not
weird.
know about that.
Yeah. No, you're not supposed to. That's all the
I
sort of
guess
secret stuff
so.
that goes
Right.
on. So yeah, my brother was is definitely gonna try and overthrow those guys. I have to say, I've said this to you before. The one thing that I think it has an advantage over the American system is that your head of state figurehead is apolitical.
Right.
The US has a political president who is the head of state, and it means that all the time, half the people in the country don't like their head of state, and
Right.
their head of state doesn't like half of the country,
Right. Sure.
and and so it's very polarizing.
Uh huh.
If you have an apolitical head of state, you can have sort of like that sort of like, well, we all support this person,
Right. Kind of
but we don't.
yeah,
Yeah,
not a mediator necessarily, but a common ground that everyone
yeah.
can walk on. Right.
Well, there are much better ways to do it. There's like the Irish system. The political parties don't stand for president, just individuals stand for president, and so you end up with a president who people like. Like that might be a poet or a
Oh.
playwright or something like
Oh
that.
wow.
And they act like a figurehead, but you still have political parties standing for the parliament, and the parliament is the one who actually sets the law. So it's not like you're giving away your democracy. It's just you're separating the politics from the country a little bit.
Sure. Right.
Well, without you, it's always a slow news week, so that's all I got. Well,
True. True.
anyway,
True.
let's get down to business. How do you believe Samwell Tarly? It's been an awfully long time. I've forgotten to count back how many chapters, but it's been a long time. I'd
It
actually
has.
forgotten that he was a POV character.
That's how long it's been. You
I was
forgot.
stunned. I was like, Sam 3? What are you talking about? Last we saw of Sam, he and his Nightwatch brethren were hunkered down at Craster's Keep after evading, or in Sam's case, dispatching, the others and their wights on their flight from the Fist of the First Men. Many of the Night's Watch men were sick and dying. Most of the brothers thought that the culprit of this was malnutrition, and Craster was only giving them weak broth and scraps to eat. When Craster's new son is born, Craster gives the Black Brothers the heave-ho, but he'll feast them before they go. At dinner, things turned ugly and mutiny erupted. Craster and Lord Commander Mormont are killed. Two of Craster's wives beg Sam to take Craster's wife Gilly and her newborn son and flee before the others show up to take the boy. Mackelly, why don't we give a summary of this one?
All right. Well, Sam, Gilly, and Gilly's unnamed baby boy are making their way south trying to get back to Castle Black. They've come across a wildling village that Sam hopes is Whitetree, but he's not quite sure. The trio have had to circumnavigate hills and lakes, so he's not sure of their location. Sam has been on foot for a long while after one of their horses died along the journey. He's sore, tired, and frostbitten, but he's afraid to ride share their lone horse for fear his weight being too much for the horse.
They've set themselves up for the night in a timber hall, and Gilly has a fire going to warm them. Sam paints a lovely picture of the cosy life she and the baby will have when they reach Castle Black, complete with warmth, food, and song. Gilly asks Sam to sing, and he obliges. Afterwards, he's reminded of how his father forbade him to sing to his baby brother Dickon for fear of making Dickon as soft as Sam.
Despite the cozy picture he painted of Castle Black, he has no clue what he's going to do with Gilly when they get to the castle. She keeps offering to marry Sam, but as a black brother, he knows that's not an option. He's been putting it all out of his mind until they get there.
He lays down with Gilly and the baby and imagines telling his father of him killing another, of his new moniker Sam the Slayer, but his imagination isn't strong enough to envision his father reacting in any positive way. He drifts to sleep and dreams he's the Lord of Hornhill, hosting all his black brothers, even the dead ones like Lord Commander Mormont.
He wakes to incredible coldness and sees a large shadow move near the entrance flaps of the hall. The shadow becomes the hulking figure of Small Paul. Sam's dead brother has the piercing blue eyes of a wight. Sam instructs Gilly to get out while he distracts Paul. He prays for braveness, at least enough to let Gilly get away. When Paul looks toward Gilly, Sam makes his move, attacking Paul with his dragon glass dagger. Unfortunately, the dagger shatters on Paul's mail armor. His regular dagger is equally ineffective.
Paul's black, cold hands close around Sam's neck. Sam realizes he's about to die. He jerks himself toward Paul, and the pair tumble to the ground. Sam grabs a stick from the fire and jams it into Paul's mouth. Soon, Paul's face bursts into flames. Outside, Sam takes in the horrific scene. Wights are everywhere, some in wildling furs, others in Night's Watch blacks. They're eating the horse and have Gilly and the baby surrounded by the weirwood tree.
Sam notices that there are ravens, and lots of them. Hundreds to thousands sit in the branches of the weirwood. Suddenly they descend on the wights, pecking and clawing at them. A raven that had landed on his shoulder says to go, go, go. Sam runs through the wights, who are distracted by fighting off the ravens, and grabs Gilly. Unsure where to go next, Sam hears a man shout, "Brother!" A man wearing mottled blacks of the Night's Watch sits astride a huge elk. He helps Gilly and Baby onto the elk, and when he reaches for Sam, Sam notices that the man's hands are cold and black, and as hard as stone. Okay.
So, obviously, that last bit is going to be quite a subject of conjecture towards the end of our discussion. But right now, who the heck was that? Some geezer just rescued them?
I think it might be Radagast the Brown.
I like it. All right, so let's be methodical. First of all, I'm going to say it's amazing to me that they're still alive. I mean, on some levels it's not, but really that they've stayed alive this long is quite incredible, because Gilly, she's had a hard life and everything, but riding for apparently weeks after just giving birth, terrified for your life, at the pace of a walking stout man. That's just next level. I mean, she must be absolutely exhausted.
I hadn't thought about the pace. Sam is not exactly fleet of foot.
When you talk about that, he must be losing weight hand over fist.
That's true. That's very possible. Right.
Because he's frozen cold, and that burns calories better than anything else, being cold.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And he's getting no calorie intake, basically. I mean, they're eating
little.
So
just the little bit that Gilly's sister wives were able to pack up for them.
When he eventually gets back to Castle Black and sort of peels off his big robes, he's going to be like buff Superman.
That's right. Just walked halfway across the continent. We talked in the last Sam chapter at the end when they started this trip from Craster's Keep to the Wall about how she had literally just given birth, I think that same day.
Right.
And now she was hopping on a horse to escape, and how difficult that would be.
I'm not going to compare my own wife to Gilly, because it's not fair. You know, different circumstances, different people.
Sure, slightly.
But I don't think Carson could have done it.
Oof, I don't. I'm sure you can if you have no choice, but it seems nearly impossible. But again, I wouldn't know firsthand. But
yes,
it seems very challenging at the least. But they do seem to be lost, and that is despite the fact that Sam was making maps of the terrain on their way north. And it just goes to show you that cartography is very different than orienteering, I guess.
Yes, very true. But especially given Sam's failures with sort of keeping his bookkeeping is not up to snuff yet. I think he'll get there. But remember, he sent a bunch of ravens to Castle Black without messages.
Right. Yes, he did.
Perhaps that came in handy right now when they all gathered back here to save him. But...
That's right. That's where they all came from.
We didn't know where to go. We didn't have notes on us or anything. So
we've just been circling above you for months.
But I'm really worried about the frostbite. I mean, that's the other thing. He's clearly developing frostbite, and you can lose significant parts of your body to frostbite. And
right.
So I'm hoping that whoever the savior is has some warmth and food for them.
Yeah, wasn't Garrett from the prologue of A Game of Thrones? Wasn't he missing half a nose or something like that? He was missing something from frostbite, and I think Steer, the Magnar of Then, is missing his ears from frostbite or something along those lines, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing. You don't want to be messing around with it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially I think he's reached a point of desperation where he isn't taking care of it. I mean, I'm sure that part of the Night's Watch orientation is looking for the signs of frostbite
Yes,
and how to prevent it. And
very true.
clearly Sam is not taking care of it.
Right.
He,
Yes.
because they're in such desperate straits here.
Yeah. But so peppered throughout the chapter, we kind of get little nuggets of Sam's life growing up in Horn Hill.
Yeah. I will say actually, when he thinks back on it, that it isn't terrible. It is quite it has moments of idyllicness, in
Yeah,
fact.
tenderness and love from his
Yeah,
mother and
from his
sisters.
mothers and sisters really loved him, and he was sweet to Dickon when Dickon was small.
Right.
Uh, but it's just ruined by the presence of Randall Tarly, Lord Randall
Yep.
Tarly, his father. It's just he is a mean-spirited monster who never respected Sam and mistreated him horribly, and
Yeah.
denied him the pleasures that he wanted.
Oh,
He's obviously a
absolutely.
gentle-natured soul, and he wanted to sing and dance with his sisters. Let him do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. It's really sad to think about the treatment that Sam received from his father, and clearly his father was disappointed that he didn't get a warrior hunter type like Randall, and but his actions and behavior surely hurt Sam very deeply, and he probably spent a lot of time wondering, why can't I be the son that my father wants? There's
Right.
a line when that Sam thinks about that. He's something like they were Sam and his mom were singing to baby Dickon,
Mm.
and Randall Tarly, his father, bursts in and says, knock that off. You ruined one boy with these soft septon songs. And then he
Yeah.
turns to Sam and said, you must sing, go sing to your sisters. I don't want you near my son. And just
Mm.
just just saying it that way is painful enough.
Yeah.
It,
Uh, do you think, obviously, some of this feels like the actions of a father, of a unpleasant father towards a son who turns out to be gay? Now, I don't think Sam is gay because I think he kind of likes Gilly and has had a
agreed. Right.
soft
Yeah.
spot for her.
Yeah.
But um, is is he denying his true self, do you think? Do you think Sam is gay?
Oh, I I'd never thought about it. It's possible. I mean, it does seem like he in some ways fancies Gilly, but at the same time, there's no clear evidence that he
Yeah.
does. So it's certainly possible.
Yeah.
What one thing is
But
for certain
go on.
is that his treatment at the hands of his father likely plays a huge role in his lack of self-confidence.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah,
He
absolutely.
doesn't. His father's all when he's dying, when he's getting choked out by the wight of small Paul. His last thoughts are of his mother who loved him and his father who he failed. So
Yeah.
his whole life, he's thought, I'm not good enough. I'm a coward. I'm useless. And that all stems from the treatment his father uh,
Yeah. I,
gave him.
and I mean, regardless of Sam's sort of orientation, it's his nature. It's clearly
Uh-huh.
not his upbringing. I'm sure Randall Tarly tried to bring him up to be a warrior, to be a fighter, and
Right.
his nature was not that. So
Right.
all the more reason to despise Randall Tarly, because
Yes.
you're hating the kid for what he instinctively is, not because of what he's choosing to be.
Right.
Sam would
Yeah.
love nothing more than to make his father happy.
I agree completely. And I get that the Tarleys are marcher lords, and that's a region known for strong martial tradition, and I'm sure it's ingrained in the mentality of the family, fighting and military prowess, but it's absolutely no excuse. You love your kid for the sweet-natured, kind person that he is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
And I will agree with Sam that likely his father, he envisions while he's falling asleep him having a conversation with his father and telling him, like I killed another. My brothers call me Sam the Slayer, and he can't even imagine that his father could think or say anything positive about it, and he's probably right.
Right. The only thing he could think of was that his father would assume that it was just a lie, a story that went
Right.
around.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. His father would be not impressed, and although he probably would assume it was some sort of accident or something, that if he did believe that he killed the other, which technically it was.
Right.
But and even his nickname Sam the Slayer is mostly done with jest by those of his brothers who don't believe. So, his father wouldn't be the only one who finds it a bit of a stretch. But
it's true.
It's just really hard. It breaks my heart to hear about the treatment he faced.
So let's assume a positive outcome here. What's going to happen to Gilly when they get back to Castle Black? Because I've racked my brains here and I'm struggling to find much good. I mean, I don't think they employ many women.
I don't think they employ any women.
Basically to avoid the temptation of having women around, right?
Yeah, so she can't stay at Castle Black and he can't marry her, which she keeps proposing. And that's sad in its own right, because Gilly keeps saying that she'll be his wife if he wanted, and she's raised in an environment where marriage wasn't consensual, but forced and expected to her father, which is a whole nother level of terribleness. But there's no thought about whether if she's actually interested in spending her life with Sam. She just thinks, I'll marry you if you want me to, because I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. So, But anyway, what are the options? Possibly set her up in Mold's town. I know a good haberdashery that might be in need of a sales clerk.
But how does he set her up? He's got nothing. I mean, he can't exactly write to Hornhill and say, "Hey, can you send some money to set up this girl that I found north of the wall?"
Right, absolutely.
As a rival haberdashery.
Yeah, I thought maybe she could work in a tavern. Then I'd worry about her in an unknown land with a baby son, as naive as she is, and she's never been anywhere outside of Craster's Keep, so it's certainly a scary situation. Probably less scary than she would have been in had the others had she waited around for the others to show up. But still, it's a tough situation.
I don't know. It would have been a simplified situation if everything had gone to Craster's plan. She would have been childless and back in the rotation pretty quick.
Oh, right. Yes.
So Sam has a dream, and as always with dreams, I turn to Mackelly Ray, the dreamer, the dreamer amongst us, to interpret and explain.
Well, I will say Sam's dream is very much of his fashion. He's hosting his friends to singing and dancing and feasting, and there's no mention of any tourney or display of fighting or weaponry.
Hunting.
Right? There's no finger dance like the Iron Islanders do. There's no Dothraki wedding deaths. There's certainly no debauchery that would take place at Robert Baratheon's feasts. So it's very much a Sam Tarly dream, and I think it's beautiful and I love it. As far as the dream goes, I think it's really just a fantasy that everything he wishes for would come true. Yeah. He is the head of the Lord of Hornhill, and it's a peaceful, open, loving, embracing environment, and all of his friends, even the ones that have died, are there, and everyone's dressed in colors instead of all blacks. And then Gilly is waiting for him in bed, which does, as we were saying earlier, does possibly tend to lean toward him fancying her.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
True. harking back to last week, which I know you don't have first-hand knowledge of last week's episode, but we were talking about what document Robb Stark was having notarized at the end
Oh
of the thing.
yes, yes, I
And
heard.
and basically the idea was that it was something that was re-legitimizing Jon Snow and hopefully freeing him from his Night's Watch oath. But maybe it didn't mention the name. Maybe it says this document entitles the bearer to be relieved from their Night's Watch oath. And so maybe Sam can get hold of it and he can
Okay.
get out of there.
I
That was a
like it. Yeah.
that was a lot for a tiny little payoff right there.
But I liked the payoff.
Yeah. So the other thing for Sam here, I mean, man, Sam does not need any more things playing on his psyche, but the extra trauma of the wight that gets to him being small Paul, who was
Uh-huh.
the guy who carried Sam, and as a
Right.
result of carrying Sam, fell behind and fell outside the circle, and therefore was killed by the others. So Sam
Yes.
was, I mean, I don't like to point the fingers. I hope Sam probably doesn't listen, but he's responsible for his death. And now, if you're responsible for someone's death, I'm sure that person would haunt you forever. But
Right.
he's literally there in the room trying to strangle you. It's
Yes. He's physically haunting you here. Yes, you're absolutely right. It is Sam's fault that Paul fell behind, so that it probably would. And then Sam kills the other right after Paul
oh,
dies,
could
so
you
he couldn't
not have
even
just done
save
that? Yeah.
Paul. So surely his death weighs on him.
Oh, and that answers a question that I had actually, which was at the time it was like, do the whites that were created by a given other die when that other dies?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Clearly not, because Small Paul was killed
Oh
by the one that Sam
yes,
killed.
right.
Yeah.
Uh huh. So that mystery is solved. I
Well,
hadn't
yeah, I
even
mean,
hadn't thought about that. I don't know if anybody else thought it was a mystery, but on our show it was a mystery.
we just created a mystery so we could solve it.
Right. But I'll just say, okay, Sam pees himself at the sight of Small Paul. Who am I to judge?
You know what? I'm pretty much guaranteed to pee myself the first time a zombie grabs me by the throat
Yes.
too.
Aside from that, he shows some serious bravery. He tries to protect Gilly and the baby by keeping Paul focused on him. Sam actually moves away from the fire because that's the direction in which Gilly and the baby are. So he's distancing himself from something that might be useful in order to help protect uh,
Yep.
Gilly and the baby. And he clearly he just doesn't understand what bravery is. He thinks bravery is not being afraid, but in the famous words of Eddard Ned Stark, you can only be brave when you are afraid, which is clearly something his super brave father, Sam's super brave father, never bothered to teach him.
Yeah. I will say that, there are physical manifestations of bravery, and one of them is not peeing yourself. I mean, so so he is he is doing things that would continue to sort of lay on his mind the idea that he's not very brave,
Yes,
even
that
if his
is true.
actions, whilst having wet pants, are quite brave.
Right, that's
Yeah,
that's that's true. He thinks with a clear head. He makes a plan to get the baby
right,
and Gilly to
right,
safety.
right.
He puts the focus of danger on himself, and then he faces down that danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
That he peed himself is just a small blip. Otherwise, he
right,
was very
right.
brave. I agree.
Aside, I mean, so then the struggle happens between Small Paul and uh, Sam. There's really not a lot to say about it, except for that it still doesn't tell us if the dragon glass is effective on whites.
Because he never
Because,
actually stabbed him. Yeah, he
yes,
kept on. He chipped the dragon glass on his armor
until
until it
nothing
was
was
until there was
left.
nothing was left. Yeah,
So,
I I
unfortunately,
I wondered the same thing if we had any confirmation of that.
not yet.
Fromage. Okay, so when he goes outside, then help me understand something, Mackelly. Why did these birds attack the whites outside? It feels like Okay, I have no idea. Maybe birds north of the wall just instinctively don't like the White Walkers and their wights and just attack them. But it feels like something more was going on here. Was it
Yeah.
the elk rider? Was he guiding them? The the one bird that talked to Sam on his shoulder feels like it was Mormont's bird.
Yeah, it certainly was talking, which is what Mormont's bird did.
Right.
But Mormont's bird made it to Craster's Keep and died with, well, it didn't die there, but Mormont died there, and that's when the bird became ownerless, I
But we
guess.
know it didn't die there. Because if I was actually having sort of an insurrection against Lord Commander Mormont, I wouldn't want that bird to get back to Castle Black, where it might say, "That guy killed Lord Commander Mormont."
That would be the smoking gun, the
Exactly.
smoking bird.
You want some corn?
Shove this corn down. Oh, it was still alive at the end of the Sam
Okay,
chapter. That's all
right.
we know. Um, yeah, so I don't know that it was Mormont's bird. It doesn't necessarily feel like it is, although it was talking. But
Yeah.
but real quick, let's just set the scene here.
Right, set the scene for me.
Okay, well, it's this scene gets very zombie movie vibe, but with a twist of fantasy elements that are a little bit rare to A Song of Ice and Fire. I mean,
Go on.
so much of A Song of Ice and Fire is rooted in like medieval politics and real life
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
struggle.
Yeah.
Of course, dragons and others aside. Um,
Come on, get
but
to it. He comes out, weirwood tree,
right,
Gilly, whites everywhere, tree full of crows.
yes, and
Ravens,
so
ravens,
here we
crows.
have wights, which are quite a fantasy element. But then we have these ravens defending the living from the dead. And the raven that you're talking about, that's on Sam's shoulder, says to him, "Go, go, go." And then there's a man mounted on a 10-plus-foot elk, which has a little bit of Lord of the Rings vibes, if you think. That's why I said it was Radagast the
Oh yeah,
Brown at
I
the
know why you
beginning.
said that. Yes.
but but so when they're still in the hall before when Gilly and Sam are both still in the hall with Small Paul, Gilly says they smelled the baby. They came for the baby smells of
Oh, because
life.
they think the baby is theirs because of Craster's deal.
Well, so yeah, so like what were the whites gonna do with the baby if they got the baby? We know, as you said, we know Craster's deal with the others for the sons, but were these whites gonna take the baby back to the others? Do they have
Oh
the mental
yes,
faculties for that? Would the
because
others trust them with that job?
there was no White Walker here. Although that's interesting though, because I Sam wakes up and it's very, very cold. That made me
Right.
think there was a White Walker present, but he never mentioned seeing one. They only mentioned seeing whites.
Maybe the White Walker was not there yet, but why would a White Walker
Uh,
be behind these slow moving whites? I don't know. So,
Tortoise
but
and a hare thing. He's taking a nap back down the
right.
road.
Were they gonna eat the baby because it smelled so strongly of life? It was unclear what was gonna
Right.
happen because it never did happen.
If they're under any kind of control, they might take the baby back to their White Walker, you know.
I guess that's some special care that they're putting in those whites. Swaddle the baby and carry it back to the
Yeah.
other. I don't. Does the baby need to be alive? I don't. I don't know. I don't. But
Yeah, I don't know.
anyway, and then also there were several other black brothers that were part of this shambling mob. There was
Right, yeah.
Chet was mentioned. Lark
Oh,
the
Chet
Sister
was mentioned.
Man was mentioned. They were both part of the mutiny group on the Fist that from the prologue that never came to fruition.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to get all that stuff mentioned. So yeah, so then who or what is this savior? And he's got hands of a wight, but he talks and thinks, and there's these ravens that are defending the humans.
Which feels like a warging kind of
Yes,
thing.
it does. It feels
Yes.
so. Is he warging all the whites? I mean, all the whites. Is he warging all the ravens,
That
or
would be very handy, actually.
It would,
If you could
or is
warg the
he?
wights, get them to do what you want.
Yes. Well, maybe someone's warging him. Maybe he is a wight, and someone is warging him.
That's
He's
true.
got stone cold, dead black hands, just like wights.
Yeah.
And
I, I read one interesting theory about this that so we didn't mention the song that Sam sang to Gilly, but it was a lullaby, but a Faith of the Seven lullaby, which basically has six verses for the
uh-huh.
six faces of the god that aren't the stranger, because uh, Gilly mentions you only sang about six. I thought there were seven,
Right,
and
right,
he's like,
right.
"Yes, we don't sing about the stranger because the stranger is death, and we don't want to sing about that to a baby. It's a little ghoulish." But I will say, if you look at a lot of lullabies that we sing to our children, they're pretty ghoulish too. So
Right. Ring around the rosy, anybody?
exactly, exactly. So so I did hear one idea that the guy on the elk was actually the stranger, that basically
Oh.
they'd invoked his name and there they were right on the verge of death, and the stranger decided to intercede on their behalf for some
Okay.
reason.
Yeah, maybe he's tired of not being included in the song.
Exactly.
So, he gets
Every
them on
one of
that
you
elk.
sings that song. I'm going to come over and, in your case, I'm going to save you just because you were in dire straits. But generally, I'm going to be mad at y'all.
He gets them on the elk, and first thing he says is, "Hey, how about one of you add a verse about this little
Yeah.
rescue mission
Yeah.
here?"
And the stranger probably going to take you to death, but you never know.
The stranger arrives with your last rites, but sometimes saves you from deadly wights. Look at your
Mackelly
face.
Ray. Where did that come from?
He brings his
Genius.
ravens to the fight, and his elk whisks away all the little children. You should see his face right now.
One
How's
week
that
off,
verse? What do you think
and
of that
he's
verse?
that's brilliant. I mean, that should be in there for sure. Uh,
I like that though. The manifestation of the stranger. Yeah, that's
yeah.
a neat idea. Yeah.
I get the feeling we're going to find out in the next Sam chapter who this person is, and it isn't going to be that. But just the way he rides in at just that moment, having they
Mm-hmm.
just had that conversation about the stranger,
Yeah.
and let's be honest, they are a heartbeat away from meeting the stranger for
Oh yeah.
real.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Now about the ravens and why they're defending the humans here. Again, like you said, it certainly feels like a warging situation, and we've met characters who can warg more than one animal. Vermeer Sixskins, who John met, he
Yes.
rides a snow bear. He wargs three wolves, a shadow cat, and he seems to have taken over the eagle that Oral was warging with. So,
By the way, I love the idea that his warging is like some just juggling act. And he's constantly warging like he can only actually warg two at a time. But as it's about to eat him, he wargs that one,
right.
releasing one of the other ones, who then tries to eat him. He's
It's like
like
spinning plates. Yeah, and then we've got this huge elk. This gigantic elk that this man is mounted on. Maybe maybe this man is warging the ravens and the elk, The elk
Yeah,
must be, it says, the description says it's 10 feet tall at its shoulders. But it is carrying this man, Gilly and her baby, and Sam Tarly. And Sam has already figured that the previous horse died because of his weight. So it must be a huge elk.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty close to inconceivable, but given what's just gone on, I think we can
Right. Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
turn a blind eye to it.
He's
Um,
wearing blacks, Night's Watch blacks, but
right,
Sam
and
doesn't seem to recognize him. So
but he also calls him brother.
yes, right.
So
But he
okay,
could be
so
from the Shadow Tower or
yeah.
Eastwatch by the Sea or
All right, but I have a suggestion for you, which might be a spoiler because I honestly don't know if this isn't it. But
okay.
there is a brother of the Night's Watch who's been north of the Wall long enough to have become feral, to have become
Uh-huh.
basically a wildling by any other name, who perhaps has been north of the Wall so long that he's got frostbite of the hands, so his hands are cold and black, and who Sam Tarly would not recognize because he went north of the wall before Sam became a brother of the Night's Watch. And by your face, I know you know who I'm talking about. I am talking about one
Yes.
Benjamin Stark.
I am nodding along with you because all that does fit. Yes,
Yeah.
we certainly don't know. We don't get any name or any description that might give it away, but yeah, that certainly all the things you just painted would fit this guy and Benjamin Stark. Now that doesn't mean that they're one and the same,
No, no.
but
It could be a wildling who rides elks who stole Benjamin Stark's cloak, or any other member of the Night's Watch's cloak. It could be an oddly high-functioning wight.
could be a wight that's being warged,
A wight that's
maybe.
being walked, exactly as you suggested, yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully we'll find out in about 70 chapters' time when Sam gets another POV. Ready for some background?
I sure am.
Let's do it.
So there wasn't a great deal of background to go on in this chapter, but Sam does spend some time thinking about his life back on at Horn Hill. So some of this,
For
yes,
the alliterative question, I should have done towns because it's much easier.
right, it
Places.
is. So some of this I think we've probably talked about before, but I believe that some of this is new as well. So just so everybody knows, Horn Hill is the seat of House Tarly. It is located in the foothills of the Red Mountains in the Dornish Marches of the Reach. And as legend has it, the castle was built by twin brothers, Harlan the Hunter and Herndon of the Horn. They were the sons of Garth Greenhand, the mythical High King from the Dawn Age. But there's an interesting story about these brothers. They both married a beautiful woods witch who lived atop the hill that the castle was built on. And it seems, as the story goes, that the brothers didn't age as long as they engaged in relations with her during a full moon. And it's said that this went on for 100 years, and so began House Tarly. But one other noteworthy bit from the Tarly family that I've just mentioned here is Sam thinks of his mother. And he thinks of stories that paint her as a really sweet lady. Well, Sam's mom is Melissa Tarly, formerly Melissa Florent. She is the middle child of Alistair Florent and Melara Crane. So the last we saw of Melissa's father, he was in deep trouble by King Stannis and Melisandre for high treason. And of course, her father, Alistair, is on the opposite side of the war as Melissa's husband, Randall, is, but I imagine she'd still be upset to learn of her father's current circumstances.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
That is interesting. I did not realize that.
Just
Yeah,
tying it all together.
Yeah, so his grandfather is Alistair Florent, but
Yes.
his father obviously is Randall Tarly. So yeah, two sides of the same thing. So
Yep.
not to sort of take this down to the base level, but did the twins have to sleep with her at the same time to
That's
stay
a good
young?
question. I wondered that too. It
Did
was
they take
unclear.
alternate full moons?
Right. Yeah. They gained every other month. They gained a little bit of age, maybe.
Imagine you might want to dispatch your twin brother just because you could have 200 years. You could have lived to be 200
right.
if you just got rid of
Yeah.
the other one. By the way, every name in that particular background was alliterative. It's weird.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Garth Greenhand, Harlan the Hunter,
Exactly.
Herndon of the Horn.
Yeah. All right, so comparison with the television show, there's a bit of a deviation here. Sam and Gilly and the baby are together in an abandoned wildling village. Yeah.
Okay.
She is the only one capable of lighting a fire because Sam's hopeless.
I believe
They
that also was the case, right? In the book?
Yes. Well, yes, exactly. They are attacked by a white walker, not by a wight.
Okay.
Sam dispatches that White Walker with the dragon glass. That is where Sam kills one. So he doesn't. None of this Sam the Slayer stuff happens because this is the only. Unless Gilly teases him mercilessly from this point onwards.
That could be. That's where it gets its origination from.
The crows are in the tree, but they don't seem to help. They did make
useless.
They did make noise to warn them.
Okay, some use.
So, but I have a question about that. didn't the forest go quiet way back in the prologue of Game of Thrones? Didn't the forest go quiet at the presence
Yes.
of the White Walkers?
Yes, I believe you're right. That
Hmm.
was part of the reason that Garrett and Will were so unnerved.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously these birds were doing something outside of the normal for animals when in the presence of a White
Right.
Walker. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Uh, the cold-handed elf jockey. Hmm. The cold-handed elk jockey is skipped. And I will say that in the book, Gilly says they don't name their children for the first 2 years because of the high infant mortality rates north of the wall, particularly among boys. Um, I,
Yes, it did. Craster boys in particular.
that also made me wonder, would she actually know any boys' names?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
You'd be like, what the heck? What do you call a boy? I
What do
don't
you
know.
call
They're
a
all dead
boy?
before they're 2. Why
Just
would we know?
boy?
Boy, yeah. In the show, Sam mansplains the concept of last names and they spitball ideas for a name for the baby. So that
Okay.
happens.
Okay.
Pedantry corner, I didn't really find anything, but it's a shame because I actually had the computer out when I was typing. There were only 6 verses in the Song of the Seven Gods until Gilly asks the same question and Sam explains they don't sing about the stranger. So I
Uh,
imagine my disappointment when I had to backtrack all that.
yeah. That's you. Delete, delete, delete,
Yeah,
delete.
exactly.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. I do. That must be one huge elk. I will say that because 3
That's
of
the
them.
part of this chapter that you can't get past.
Yes. Well, the rest of it's all mythical and magical, right?
But
So
the elk,
the
that just doesn't make
giant
any
elk.
sense.
How tall is this elk?
I mean, they have little spindly legs. He's got like 800 pounds up on there.
Sam's already killed one horse.
You can have that much weight on an elk. He needs at least 6 legs.
Right.
All right, news and notes.
Okay, so George Martin has been quite vocal in his support of the WGA, the Writers Guild of America's strike that recently has begun. He's also explained the impact that the strike will have or not have on some of our A Song of Ice and Fire related shows, so I'm going to fill you all in. First off, he ensured everyone that House of the Dragon Season 2 shouldn't face much of a setback. The scripts have already been written and rewritten many times over. And although script writing does happen during the, production of a show, they're pretty well baked. So that they should be able to carry on with production of Season 2 of House of the Dragon, while this strike is happening. Unfortunately, the upcoming Duncan Egg show won't be as lucky. The writing process has come to a halt while the strike is ongoing. But he has also reassured us, A Song of Ice and Fire fans, that the WGA strike doesn't include novel writers. So he'll still be working on Winds of Winter. And, maybe a silver lining to this whole thing is possibly he'll be less distracted with these Hollywood projects that he has gotten himself wrapped up
Believe it
in
when I see
and
it.
maybe focus on the book a little more.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
I will say the Writers Guild of America strikers did have some well-written signs.
Oh, I bet they did.
I saw one that said, "Pay us what you owe us, or we'll kill off your favorite character."
Good
I
one.
like that. Mm-hmm. So there's another Game of Thrones alumni headed to the Con of Thrones in Orlando, Florida. Indira Varma, who played Ilaria Sand, paramour to Oberyn Martell, will be in attendance. She's a lovely lady.
Uh-huh.
We recently met her when the Red Viper arrived outside of King's Landing and Tyrion was there to greet them. Con of Thrones will be held August 25th to 27th, and we are considering attending. You never know. It could
That's
happen.
right.
We need to talk about that and actually make a decision. Just stop teasing without actually thinking
Right.
about it. Yeah.
Because we don't want to announce we're going and then we're like, we're not.
No.
We're too lazy to go all the way to Orlando.
Oh, that's in Florida, right? In the summer? Oh.
Right. Why would they do it in summer in Orlando? Yeah. Anyway. In exciting news, we have a new Knight of the Realm sustainer on Buy Me a Coffee. NSM Saint is the name. So thank you so much. We look forward to interacting with you and chatting with you on the sustainer calls that include our Knights of the Realm. So
Excellent.
very
Thank you.
exciting. Yes.
Yeah, welcome. We're looking forward to meeting you.
Absolutely.
All right, let's draw a line under this one. Hopefully Sam and Gilly have found a savior, because honestly, I cannot see Sam getting them to the wall in one piece any other way. I mean, I get it without maps
Right.
that he lost somewhere. It's
We've
hard,
glossed over that bit.
right? Oh, it's not that hard though. Just keep going south, you know. But actually, one thing they mentioned in this, which freaked me out. Am I right in thinking that the eye of the dragon of the constellation is due north?
I believe so, yes.
So this is a huge constellation, because he talks about this coming that he used the dragon, the tail of the dragon, to help guide him south. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's due south, but it means that's a huge constellation.
I guess so.
Yeah, I just
that's
thought
true.
about that.
Yeah.
And if they do get to the wall, what next for Gilly? I'm very worried about that. But maybe everything's just going to get derailed by Elk Boy.
Well, if they do make it to the wall, and if it hadn't been for the, as you put it, elk jockey, possibly Sam would have missed the wall altogether, even though it spans the continent.
Well, I see this seashore here, but I could have sworn there should have been a wall.
Shouldn't we have reached a wall before we reached this water? But we are assuming that this guy is going to help them get home. He could put them in a hole and make them put lotion on their skin twice a day. You don't know. They could be going out of the frying pan into the fire here.
Wait, you mean they're going to crown him the King of England?
As far as Gilly, when she gets to the wall, we'll put her to work. She can come work for us.
Yeah.
And we will make fantastic surrogate uncles to this baby boy.
We would.
Yes.
We'll help her with the name choice.
Right. You'll teach him Sivas.
Yeah. Gilly, there's more than just Sam and Craster. I'm telling you, there's more than Sam and Craster.
Right.
And it's time for Sam to stop calling himself a coward, let's be honest.
Absolutely. He is so much braver than he thinks he is. He just needs to get his bladder under control a little better, and he will be rocking and rolling.
Yeah. And fingers crossed that we found ourselves a hero in the nick of time.
Yeah. Don't be surprised if Gandalf shows up in the next Sam chapter, possibly. That would really just tie it all together.
Where are we going next?
Next week, we are off to visit Arya, and I'll say she discovers that the Hound has a different plan for her than she assumes that he has for her. And he gives an idea of his next possible career endeavor.
Exciting.
I'll give you a hint. Think Septon. No, I'm joking. That would be ridiculous.
All right. There's 3 ways that you can help us. You could leave us a positive review. You could buy some merchandise at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal. Become a sustainer at the Knight of the Realm or Lord Paramount level, as NCM Saint did. And you can meet us on video calls and enjoy other benefits as well.
That's right. And you can always reach us at ghost.harrenhal@gmail.com, but go on out and follow us on Twitter at @ghostharrenhal, and we're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my God, you've done it again.